Mayor, I'll turn it over to you to begin the meeting.
Thank you. All right, we'll go ahead and call the special meeting of the August 13th to order. If we could have the roll call, Amy.
Councilmember Bruins is absent. Councilmember Daniels is absent. Councilmember Middleton.
Present.
Vice Mayor Miller.
Here.
Mayor Slowey.
Present. Thank you, Amy. Public comment. Do we have any public comment on the special meeting?
I have not received any written public comment, and I do not see any hands raised.
Thank you. Okay, so we'll move right into the study session, which is regarding discussion concerning MS4 stormwater permit and trash amendment. So Dirk, I take it you're going to be up first.
I'm going to do a quick,
Okay, sorry, Stu.
just a quick introduction. As you know, we deal with our Clean Water Act requirements on a regular basis, and more recently in the last few years, they have come up with this trash amendment to deal with trash. And this will be our first opportunity for us to kind of brief you on this new requirement. And I'm going to let Dirk take it on from there.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, council members, and staff. Is everyone able to see the first slide? Great.
Yes.
If that is the first slide.
Yes. So thank you for the opportunity to present to you a small portion of the city's stormwater requirements, or as Mary and some of my grassroots friends like to say, to drop trash. More specifically, we're here to present to you the trash amendment requirements of the Clean Water Act. What is the trash amendment? What have we done as a city already? And what remains to be done to be in compliance? We're not asking you to take specific action this evening because this is likely new information for you all. We'll need to meet with you again in the future to map out the specific actions you want staff to take regarding the implementation options we'll discuss this evening. I believe you've all heard about the MS4 from my predecessors, but as a quick bit of background, the MS4, Municipal Separate Storm Sewer System, is a permit, is the Clean Water Act funneled to the city of Citrus Heights by the public agents and all public agencies by the EPA through the State Water Resources Control Board and the Regional Water Quality Control Board. The current permit is effective from 2016 through 2021. The MS4 begins with roadside ditches, curb and gutter that flow into our piped storm drain system, and ends with where the stormwater discharges into the creeks. The creeks are part of our stormwater system that we maintain, but from a regulatory perspective, they're waters of the state. Many of the city's requirements in the MS4 are achieved through cooperation with the Sacramento Stormwater Quality Partnership, which is the other public agencies within Sacramento County. But some, such as tonight's topic, are individually implemented, although as with all the activities, we coordinate these activities with the others in the partnership. Trash, as I mentioned earlier, is what we're here to discuss this evening. The degree to which it is a problem varies by agency, but trash in the waterways is a problem for everyone because it affects all the water, affects the water that we all rely upon. So the trash amendment was adopted by the state board in 2015, and in 2017, the regional board provided direction regarding implementation. The goal of the trash amendment is to remove all trash greater than 5 millimeters, which is about 1/4 inch in diameter, from entering the waters of the state via the MS4. The trash amendment starts by recognizing that there are 3 ways that trash enters the waters of the state. Airborne deposits are relatively minor and hard to regulate. They're trash that blows directly into the creeks. Direct deposit are a major contribution to trash in the waterways, but is also very difficult to regulate. Direct deposit could be things like dumping, homeless encampments, or trash discarded by recreational users. MS4s are the third way that trash enters the waters of the state. It's in between the two as far as the volume of trash generated, but by far the most easily regulated because we have an existing permit. So the compliance timeline. The first steps in compliance were identified by the regional board in a letter provided in June, as I mentioned. The first step that the city took was to identify track 2 as the approach for complying with the trash amendment. Track 1, which the state initially thought most agencies would select, involves placing full trash capture devices, a structural unit at each outfall, and capturing all the trash coming out of the storm drain before it enters the waters of the state. Track 2 is a combined approach that includes the structural removal as well as programmatic contributions. Programmatic approaches could include street sweeping, increased trash receptacle placement and maintenance, outreach programs to reduce trash generation, and partial credits for creek cleanups. In December 2018, the city continued the selection of the track 2 approach to implementation by providing an implementation plan to the regional water board. In 2021, the MS4 permit will be renewed and the specifics of the trash amendment will actually be codified in our permit. At this time, they're just in by a matter of letters and orders. The real key, though, is that the water board has indicated all agencies are required to demonstrate full compliance with the trash amendment by December 2030. So the steps that we've done to date, as I mentioned, in 2017, the city sent a letter to the regional board indicating we were selecting track 2 as our approach to compliance with the trash amendment. In 2018, we selected a consultant to conduct an on-land visual trash assessment, OVTA, that actually goes to each parcel in the city that's required to comply and does a visual assessment of the amount of trash in the street. And then that was incorporated into the trash implementation plan that was submitted in 2019. So the trash implementation plan starts with identifying what the water board refers to as priority land uses. Commercial, industrial, and multifamily zonings are identified as priority land uses. And in the city, that constitutes about 24% of the acreage of the city. 76% of the city is single family residential and is categorically exempt. So this map shows the shaded areas are the priority land use areas, and the unshaded areas are the single family residential, which again are categorically exempt. The good news in this, the best news in this slide is all the green. Green shows a low amount of trash generation. And so those are parcels that already are demonstrating compliance with the trash amendment. Yellow demonstrates moderate trash generation, red is high, and green is very high. So we can really get into the weeds looking at all the numbers on this table, but the really important number is in the lower right-hand corner, and that's the calculation that Based on the OVTA that we've conducted, the city must demonstrate the removal of 22,174 gallons of trash annually from the waterways or from exiting the storm drain pipes into the waterways. So similar to what we've done with the stormwater management of the city, we broke the city up into trash management areas. So trash management area 1 is the northwest corner of the city, which basically is isolated from the rest by Highway 80. Trash management area 2 is primarily the Auburn Greenback area up to Van Maren. Trash area 3 is northern Auburn Boulevard down to about the Sylvan Road, Old Auburn Road intersection. Trash management 4 is Greenback and Sylvan. 5 is Northern Sunrise, and 6 is Southern Sunrise, generally the mall area. Without getting too deep into the weeds of looking at all the individual partials, it seemed worthwhile to recognize a few of the good and some not so good results. 2 of the really significant good results, in my opinion, are the 2 mobile home communities one in the southwest corner of the city, Lakeview Village, and one in the northeast corner of the city, Big Oaks mobile home community. Those are areas that would potentially be trash generating areas, but the assessment indicated that those communities are already doing enough that they're demonstrating compliance with the state's requirements. There are other areas that similarly are currently demonstrating compliance, such as the southeast area near the mall, shown in the green. There's some areas that show both good and bad. At the very north end of Auburn Boulevard is the only very high trash generating area of the city. It was the once vacant or underdeveloped parcels that are now being developed into Big Lots and Studio Movie Grill. Those previously were underdeveloped and had trash generating rates associated with that sort of situation. But we're expecting significant improvements in the trash generation for those parcels as those businesses develop, a win-win for the city. So the trash implementation plan went on to identify a variety of strategies for achieving compliance with the state's requirements. As we put the trash implementation plan together, we tried to take as broad brush and as encompassing a look at possibilities as we could. We're not required to use all of these strategies, and we can add other strategies as we become aware of them. But these are some of the possibilities that we have for achieving compliance with the trash amendment. They include things like street sweeping, both public streets and private parking lots, storm drain cleanings, again, both in public streets and in private parking lots, creek cleanups and channel cleanups, whether by city crews or volunteer efforts, can contribute a portion of the required gallons of trash removal. There are a number of cities that have solid waste franchise agreements that include language that allows for greater trash capture. We anticipate public outreach to reduce the amount of trash generation. We anticipate development requirements, and we've been communicating that with commercial properties as they come in for redevelopment over the last year and a half. Green streets is a type of infrastructure development that uses landscaping and vegetation to remove a variety of pollutants from the stormwater before it discharges into the storm drain system. Landscape maintenance is seen as a significant contributor because the trash tends to get captured in the trees and plants in the various landscape areas. And so if we can remove that trash from the landscaped areas instead of just having it blown into the streets, then we're removing it before it becomes a part of the MS4 system. Some agencies have, in particular in the Bay Area, have adopted product bans such as plastic bag bans and plastic straw bans to reduce the trash load that ultimately arrives at the MS4. There's a variety of interagency collaboration, both with the partnership, as we've mentioned, or if you've walked through the General Services Department, you've probably seen the Trash Your Trash banners, which are actually a Caltrans initiative that we're working to incorporate into some programs here in the city. General Services Department has met with the homeless team through CHPD to talk about ways that we can leverage and provide benefits to the homeless community and give them an opportunity to provide a benefit to the community as well. There are underdeveloped properties that we mentioned, like the Big Lots and Studio Movie Grill properties, that as we're able to work with those properties, hopefully get them developed, but even if we aren't getting them developed, get some regulations in line to reduce the amount of trash that's being generated on those properties. And one of the strategies that doesn't include an actual parcel, but we found to be a source of trash as we were doing the on-street visual assessment, were the bus stops. And so this is something that through the partnership, we've already started reaching out to the regional authorities to incorporate programs to reduce the amount of trash being generated at the bus stops. As I mentioned, we broke the city up into the 6 trash management areas so that we can develop some specific controls to those particular regions because they'll have slightly different characteristics. We anticipate that there will be full trash capture device structural controls that will need to be implemented, whether on public facilities or on private property facilities. An implementation strategy definitely has to include a monitoring and documentation program because we need to be able to demonstrate to the state that we have either eliminated part of those 22,000 gallons of trash from getting to the MS4, or we've captured it from being discharged into the waters of the state. And part of our implementation strategy also includes reassessments probably around year 4 and year 7 to evaluate the effectiveness of the programs that we've implemented and whether we want to adjust, add other programs, or otherwise modify our strategies for achieving the compliance by the year 2030. Ultimately, this all comes down to funding. Compliance with the proposed trash amendment is not currently funded in the city budget. The cost of operations and maintenance, policy controls for trash reduction, management of the facilities, design and installation of full trash capture devices, as well as the maintenance of those are all additional funding requirements. Some of the possible ideas that we presented in our implementation plan to the water board include the municipal code review. So we would be looking at requirements for the private development that would include full trash capture devices, or possibly collaborating on a regional facility that probably would be through a maintenance assessment district that the city would manage. There are some agencies that have implemented trash franchise agreements that have provided funding to implement the public program. One of the things that we identified 2 years ago when we were doing the implementation plan ahead of any of the more recent discussion on a sales tax was that that was a possibility for a way of getting some additional funding to the stormwater program for complying with the trash amendment. And I'm sure there are other possibilities as well. The unfunded mandate bullet is in here because it's commonly a question as to whether the MS4 requirements are an unfunded mandate. The Water Board actually has 14 pages worth of reasons why the permit requirements are not considered an unfunded mandate. So the next steps, we likely, as mentioned earlier, will need to come back to the City Council in the next fiscal year to discuss, or I guess the current fiscal year, to discuss the direction that you would like to see staff take for implementing the various options we have for compliance. We anticipate updating the stormwater ordinance in 2021 to incorporate some of these revisions as well as other requirements. That would lead into formal city standard development. As I mentioned, there will be a variety of implementation phases. We're currently ahead of the stated implementation phases that we've agreed to with the partnership, and we want to keep working towards the full implementation. We'll need to document our monitoring program, and as mentioned previously, we'll need reassessments probably 4 and 7 years out from now. So that concludes the presentation. Thank you for allowing me this opportunity to present these city requirements that benefit our community, region, nation, and world. Water connects us all and has the power of life and death. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have at this time.
A quick question, Dirk. You talked about 22,000 gallons, and that's normally a liquid measurement. So if I got a 5-gallon Home Depot bucket and filled it with trash, that's 5 gallons worth of garbage, right?
Yes.
It seems a funny measurement, but I guess since we're talking about water, that makes a little.
Stu and I have been talking about this, that a classic discussion is whether you use a weight-based measurement or a volume-based measurement. The weight-based measurement, I think, is generally shied away from because as the trash gets wet, it would have water weight that would be included. And so they don't use the weight-based version. The volumetric, there are a variety of volumetric measurements that you could have. So a gallon, cubic yard, cubic foot, all these sorts of things. I think gallon might have been chosen from the standpoint that we're probably more familiar with it. People commonly have gallon milk jugs or gallons of paint, that sort of thing. And so I think there's a measure of familiarity that comes with that unit of measurement.
Well, I would like to see us get credit for the water weight inside the garbage.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Yes, Mr. Miller.
Thanks, Jeff. Just for an order of magnitude, how many outfalls are we talking in our city, and what's the cost per unit for something like a full capture device? Are we talking small pipes, big pipes?
So yeah, so there are 753 mapped outlets in the city. That's a lot of outlets. Now, some of those would just be coming from the single family residential areas. So they wouldn't be from PLUs. But there would be a significant number that would be coming from the priority land use areas. The other challenge that comes with that, though, is that if a storm drain system drained a primarily residential area, but then flowed through a commercial area, that then becomes a priority land use outfall. And so in order to treat that commercial area, we'd have to treat the runoff from the entire single family residential area as well. The other challenge that comes with the outfalls is they're at the creeks, and many of our outfalls aren't really accessible. So if we were going to be going in there to do maintenance, which we would be required to do and remove the trash and all that sort of thing, that could get into a really significant maintenance challenge, especially when some of those outfalls are on private property.
Yeah, it does not sound cheap.
Yeah.
And help me out. I'm trying to remember stormwater funding. Does that just come out of our sales tax right now?
I believe there are assessments that we receive from the county for that.
So it's per parcel?
Yeah, this is Steve, this is Stu Hodgkins. The
Hi.
The county has a stormwater assessment that every parcel in the county is assessed, and we get our proportionate amount that we use for stormwater system upgrades and maintenance.
So that's a enterprise fund, what we'd consider?
Yes.
Okay.
I believe that's the case, or what we would term it. I did want to kind of check back and kind of part of your first question was related to the cost of a specific device, trash capture device. Dirk, if you could respond to that, I think you have a little bit of background on what a typical unit might cost.
Right, so the units can vary significantly in size. There are some that are little grates that go into a catch basin. And so those are, including installation, are probably in the $1,000 range. There are other units that are more end of pipe sort of thing. We have some outfalls that get rather large. We did an assessment on a 30-inch storm drain pipe outfall, and the full trash capture devices that can accommodate the flows through a 30-inch pipe run about $100,000 for the material, and then estimated about $100,000 to have that installed. And that would just be the capital costs. And then there would be the periodic maintenance costs that probably comes about twice a year for those.
Thank you, Dirk.
Portia, do you have any questions?
No.
Okay. Thank you, Dirk. Obviously, it looks like some expenses coming down the line, but it's a mandate. We can argue whether it's unfunded or not, but so appreciate you getting ahead of it and giving us a heads up on some gray clouds that are down the road.
Thank you.
Right. Is that it for the study session, or there's nothing else?
That's it, Mayor.
All right. So at this point, we'll go ahead and close the special meeting. And if I could get Portia and Steve to come back about 5 to 7 so that we can start council meeting. It's a different Zoom link, so click on that one in about 20 minutes.
I'll keep a better eye on the clock this time.